Grog. Hey everyone, it's the Sideshow Podcast. Peter Fickling here with Matthew Weir and Keri Warbis. I'm a little bit laid low with illness, but in fine spirits otherwise. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, really good. Really chipper. Thank you very much. It's all been stormy, weird weather. I miss the sunshine. Ailment-wise, I haven't had anything apart from a trip to the dentist this week, which hurt my purse very hard.
Yeah,
So-
more than your face, didn't it?
More than my what?
Face.
Oh, really?
That sounded quite like someone who was about to take their jacket off and start a fight in a pub in Essex. More than your face, yeah?
And more than my what?
Oh, no, you what? Yeah, definitely. I absolutely am terrified of the dentists. He had to put so much more anaesthetic into my gums than any mere normal mortal to start off with, and then stung me for like 600 quid.
I know that you are, and this might be controversial, Keri, a bottle ginger. But is it that gingers are particularly prone to suffering pain, or are
No.
they particularly stoic?
No, I have a very, very high pain threshold. Like I gave birth twice with no drugs. And it's just something about dentists, that bloody
Right.
miniature drill that's...
So it's a psychological thing then?
No, it hurts. My teeth,
Oh,
my
okay.
teeth do hurt. My teeth, it's something to do with them. Yeah, horrid.
Okay, all right. You're recovering, but Matthew is just starting a 2-year dental program.
Yeah, they stung me for €600. So I've got braces put in because I needed a few things that needed correcting. So the top level have gone in. So I've got kind of shoulder length hair again, braces. The only thing I'm going to have to start listening to Slayer and not have a girlfriend anymore.
I was going to say it's like reliving your teenage years, but the worst bits of it.
Yeah, it'll be worth it in the long run. It needed to be done. So, and we're the same. Yeah, we just came off the back of a load of hot weather, and we've gone into we've got the stormy weather here now, though. So it's kind of nice. It's broke.
Yeah, there was a great thunderstorm last night. Did you get it in London, Peter?
It was just disgusting, absolutely disgusting here last night. It was a horrible, humid, muggy shithole, and I can't wait for this evening and a proper night's sleep. Matthew has flirted with being a teenager. Adam spent the week behaving pretty much exactly like one.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, he's a tea leaf, isn't he, to start off with?
Yeah.
He has half-inched $5,000, but thinks that $5,000 is nothing big.
Only $5,000, Keri.
Yeah, only $5,000. And he feels that there's nothing wrong with that. He was going to put it back. But was he going to put it back? And why has it taken him since March to deal with it? And he had to get a loan to repay it. So quite how skint are him and Ian?
Yeah, and they did a clever thing using Lee as the kind of moral juxtaposition. An NHS worker is almost unimpeachable. You know that every pound is earned. It's their salary is scrutinised. It's well advertised. So Lee's kind of incredulous gasps as Adam said, going, "Well, in my business, Lee." Or it's only $5,000. It really did just point. I mean, we were kind of joking earlier on. Like, I mean, obviously, this podcast makes enormous amounts of money, but we were sort of like we were joking around about it earlier on. Like, what if one of us found out that Matthew had paid for his invisible shirts with out of our bank account or something with $5,000?
Yeah, we wouldn't be best pleased, would we? I thought Lee's incredulity was something to do with the fact he was thinking, I could get $2 for that.
Yeah, I thought that. He was like, I'd struggle to find it, and if I did, I'd spend it on the bloody 1977 Hulk figure with a retractable arm.
You've thought about that too much, man.
$5,000 probably wouldn't get you much, would it? I mean, you probably would be talking about. I mean, how much was the replacement that Helen found? What did you say? $200
quid or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that seemed too little to me. But anyway,
this will mean probably nothing to either of you. But I had Jawa with a vinyl cape when I was a kid.
Cloth cape?
No, with the vinyl cape. It's the cloth cape is the common one.
Is it?
The vinyl cape is the rare one. My
Oh, I
dad.
thought it was the other way
No, I
round.
got it for Christmas, like 1981, maybe 82, and yeah, I still remember getting it. And I only realized a couple of years ago just how much they fetched. The last one in 3 years ago or 4 years ago fetched 21,000.
What are you talking about? What's Jawa? Or whatever that first word was.
One of the Star Wars creatures. If you were in your mid-40s, you would have been showered with Star Wars figurines when you were a kid, and there are 2 or 3 very famous figures that are
Mm.
worth an absolute fortune. Yoda with a particular type of cloth, Darth Vader with a particular type of lightsaber, and if you have one, I think the ultimate one. I'm ashamed to know this is actually it was a Boba Fett. There was only 8 of them made or something. It was released as part of a sort of promotion for like a cereal or something. Anyway, I can't
You're
remember.
making Lee sound quite sane at this point.
Yeah, it's very Lee-like how you're going there. I thought it was the Boba Fett where the rocket could fire from his backpack.
Yeah, but I think that it was a promotion. There was very few made. I now want to kill myself. I'm
So
boring myself
yeah, Peter and I are
shitless.
now single.
Yeah.
Yeah, now this is all when you were a child. You didn't keep these, did you? Or have you?
My mum
Have you
gave them
still
away.
got them? Okay.
No, but the difference is it's perfect. My little
Mm.
brother, he's 12 years younger than me. He's a vastly superior man, and he when he was about 14, he was kind of sort of 13, maybe, he was moaning to us that he didn't have any money and what could he do for money, and we sort of gave him the kind of slightly patronising go and get a job speech. He didn't need to. He just sold his childhood because, of course, this is when eBay had
Mm.
just started. And so it would have never even crossed my mind that I could have tried to flog all my little Star Wars figures and stuff. But all the gifts we'd given him for over the
Mm.
preceding decade and a half had kept him going for years.
Quite a wise lad. There must be so many thousands of males who have these figures and ships and stuff.
Yeah, but there's only a few. That's only a few that are worth stuff.
Yeah, but the monetary value is, it's just more the sentiment, isn't it, that's more precious?
No, because this is the thing. I have been defending Lee on Twitter,
Mm.
sort of arguing that for instance, my camping gear collection is offensive. The amount of money I've wasted on it. If Charlotte ever finds out, hello, Charlotte.
And it's not on a shelf in your sitting room, is it? I mean, it's a bit different.
No, I mean, and I justified it. I justified it to myself, like, I need it for this, I need it for that. But the point is that there's, like, there's multiple redundancies. I bought, there's things that I've got like 3 different stoves, and anyway, this. But I don't like to get too sniffy about people's kind of like personal little peccadillos. I mean, because we've all got them. But the moment my sort of sympathy does start to run out is the fact that they're not necessarily being collected for sentimental value, because why it's a completism. It's wanting those scarce ones. It's like the bragging rights of having those kind of like the
Mm.
ones that no one else has, or just how pristine the box is. Whereas to Joy's point and yours just now, Keri, surely a lot of it should just be being able to hold which one was it? Wolverine, cherished Wolverine.
I like the way she referred to them as dollies.
Yeah, exactly.
Brave woman.
But that was a very strange moment, wasn't it, where he held it and sort of said something like, "Oh, it doesn't feel how I'd imagined." So he'd literally never touched this object.
Mm. What metaphor do you think they're going for there? Wolverine. He thought Wolverine's claws were sharp, and they're actually a little bit bendy. And like Helen was like, "So they don't gouge little kids' eyes out." And he was like, "Oh yeah, I guess."
I imagine Lee's got a bit of a sad backstory. He's a sensitive and emotional man, but who's someone who surrounds himself with some rather obviously sort of masculine
Mm.
influences. His martial arts and all these these Marvel
Mm.
figurines, and yes, so it's a safe place for him to play with his masculinity in a non-threatening and scary way.
In which case, he did handle that very, very well, didn't he? Why cry over spilt milk or whatever he said about the boys having wrecked the boxes.
Yeah, I mean this. I said this a couple of weeks ago that all of this plot line was to position Lee, just to clear any doubt that Lee
Mm.
is another Rob. It's like, no, they've provoked him and prodded him and put him in difficult situations, and they've tested him in front of the audience. And we can all just settle down and know that Helen is happy with her lovely Lee.
Yeah.
They also went as far as to, after the event, after Joy had left, Helen did that other thing. She was like, "So what's the truth now?
Yeah.
Joy's gone." very Rob-esque, wasn't it? You're going to show me
Yeah.
what you really think now.
Mm,
It was acted very well because she sounded quite manic at one point.
mm. Yeah, because he was very taken aback by that. It wasn't he? He said, "Do you think I'm lying?"
Mm.
Yeah. He said, "Oh well, no, I thought you were being polite."
He wasn't angry, he was sad, he said, didn't he, as well?
Mm,
But when they were at
yeah.
the open air cinema, I mean, of course, they went to see bloody Downton Abbey, the movie. Apologies to anyone that likes Downton Abbey. I've
I
never
do.
seen a single episode, so I'm sure it's great. But yeah, I just thought it was. I was hoping. Is that what you expected from his reaction? You thought that would how
No.
they would frame it?
I thought he might pretend that but be seething inside or something.
Yeah.
But then there was the point, wasn't there, where he counselled Adam about make things right and move on, I think was his phrase to Adam when he weirdly offloaded onto Lee. Not in that way.
Yes.
And so he said that to Adam. So then you thought, well, is he going to do the same thing? Is he going to make things right and move on when his dollies have been spoiled?
And that was the kind of theme of the week, wasn't it? It was people dealing with potential anger.
I'm still concerned about dollies being spoiled.
Yeah, you're right. Anger management and conflict resolution. It was all about that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I was hoping for some kind of Bruce Lee style honor quid pro quo, like Lee was going to strip down to the waist, go to a darkened room, put a headband on, like stare emptily
What
at
with
his.
Jack and Henry?
Yeah, it's no, like because it was Joy's fault. Just stare into the mirror and then go down the road and like as a kind of a trade off, he could karate chop Joy's Robin or something, do something that would.
Oh. Do you think it
kind
was
of pay
Joy's
back.
fault? I think evil Henry knew that you shouldn't have got them out. The minute Lee was out of the house, he was like, ha ha ha, got in that cupboard.
There was evil child laughter in the background, wasn't there? When she was calling, I thought
I mean, ultimately, it's no one's fault. It's called having, small children, and if you have small children, as Keri will know way better than me, it's your fault if you've left them in a place where the kids can get hold of them.
Yeah, if they're that precious.
yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, and until my cousin popped up on my mum's side of the family when I was about 10, I used to go up. My Auntie Mary, who's a fan of the Archers, I've mentioned her before. She had a pristine porcelain collection of all the Beatrix Potter characters in the bay window, and I could not I could not understand that they weren't for me to play with. But I found out very quickly every time I almost went near them. So I think it's a little bit similar to that, isn't it? Except that these were toys directly for kids.
And beating children's out of fashion these days, Matthew. It's a lot easier for her to explain in those days. It's like, once you'd been hit around the neck with a bread knife back then, you knew don't touch the Beatrice Potter. Look, Matthew, son, if you touch Jemima one more time, if you touch that puddle duck one more time, I will end you.
It was a different time then, though, isn't it? They used to put on Fleetwood Mac and just kick you around the house.
At least you got a decent soundtrack.
My dad used to put the cat out he'd go to the front door, he'd walk all the way back down the hallway. It wasn't that big a house, it was big enough, but it was a sort of long and thin. And he'd get the cat, and then from the kitchen he'd pitch it like it was a bowling alley. It was like a point of pride to try and get the cat all the way through the house, almost from the garden.
What?
Yeah. I mean, just different times.
I mean, I used to kind of throw my cat to the sofa just to watch it land, but
If anyone wants to find my ginormous cat-bothering father, he's high up in the hills of Colorado, so that's where you'll find him if you want to.
One day, like a mountain lion's going to tap on his door and say, "Hey, remember me?"
He's immortal. The mountain lion will come off second. He's a formidable creature. Anyway.
Yeah, I was going to do a really, really shit segue about speaking of cats, cat whisperer, Joy. Joy talking to Linda was quite funny, wasn't it? She out-Lindered Linda, I thought.
The more you find out about Joy, the more you want to know.
Yeah.
Her backstory is absolutely fascinating. And what job did she do up there? She's obviously, she's not rich, we know that, but she's obviously had enough of a life that she was able just to sort of say, okay, I'm upping sticks and I'm buying this big old house in this kind of fairly expensive development in what seemed like quite a ritzy village, because we're always finding how, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a woman of industry, but obviously she's got the sadness in her life. No, she's very intriguing. She's the loudest, most open enigma you'll ever find.
I've got a theory about her.
Oh,
And I've had it since she very first appeared. And when I was re-listening to the episodes this evening and hearing her talking about the majorette troupe that she sort
yeah.
of baked cakes for, I thought, this is bloody ridiculous. She's making it up. And when she first, I love her, by the way, but when she very first appeared on Twitter, I remember saying that I thought that the photographs of her family, she often talks of Rochelle, obviously.
Yeah.
I made the point that the photos of her family were those, the picture frames you get like in Boots or whatever, and they've got a sort of factory picture of a family inside
Yes.
already. I tweeted that I thought that that's the pictures of her family around the living room are those. And I remember saying that Rochelle was a glove puppet that she'd made out of a sock. But basically, my point really was that I think she might be a bit of a fantasist and sort of have
Alternate.
created
Yeah.
these stories to make herself seem more interesting. And I mean, props to her for that majorette story to try to convince Linda that, you can't own me, Linda. This is what I've done.
So I think now, like, what you've got to make sure every time Joy is telling a story is like you need to look into her line of vision to check there isn't a notice board like The Usual Suspects, and she's not Verbal Kent, and she's just reading all of these details. And like, there's an advert for Baton Twirling, and there's a meat raffle advert, and she's just stringing it all together and creating this false narrative.
Well, she did her own one-woman meat raffle out on the lawn at Lower Loxley, didn't she?
Oi.
Badly made burger out for everyone to see.
God, I saw that described as a punch to lasagna the other day. That's quite a new one on me.
Dear. Half-eaten kebab, maybe.
I said that Lee was. I thought I could use it in an innocent way. I wouldn't get caught out. But I said on Twitter that Lee was wetter than an otter's pocket, and everyone was like, "No, that pretty much only has one meaning." But anyway, yeah.
But what do you think about my Joy as a fantasist theory?
Absolute tosh.
Okay.
Yeah. No, but I mean, it really, really inventive, creative, and hopefully correct tosh. I mean, I want it to be true. I mean, no, that's not true. I don't want Joy to be, because she'd have to be outed. I don't want Joy to be caught in a lie. I don't want any sadness in her life. But it would be quite entertaining, and anything that gives us more joy, pun unintended, the better.
I think there's going to come a time where people are going to ask for receipts. She needs to bring the receipts about these stories.
Is Rochelle not coming down to visit?
Well, she never does she? She's always saying, "Oh, if she comes down to visit, she can twirl to her heart's content or whatever." She never appears, does she?
I think it's incoming. I think she mentioned it to.
Of course, she keeps mentioning this, but it's never going to happen because she doesn't exist.
Wasn't she meant to come for Christmas and it didn't happen?
Yeah, I just think she just can't stop talking about her. And there was another, what was it she said? Oh, a really weird thing about the butterflies. Did you pick up on that? Where she went, oh, a funny thing happened with Rochelle and some butterflies once.
And Linda just shut her down.
What would happen? What would happen with Rochelle and some butterflies? That's funny.
Did I mean, who was the character? What was the character with Rob Brydon and his the taxi driver? Marion and Jess.
Yeah.
I think where it's not necessarily lies, Keri. It's just sort of, I get what you're saying. So, she's telling all these stories, but it's sort of more this kind of tragic obsession with, a totally disinterested group of friends, family. And
yeah.
But I hope I think she's making positive waves in the village, isn't she? Everyone loves her now, don't they?
None of this means I don't like her at all, but I just have this feeling that she's embroidering a lot. God bless her. And I don't think she might not necessarily be outed by others. She'll probably at some point tell Tony or something.
She's had a couple of breakdowns, hasn't she? She had the confession that she was very sad and lonely to Lizzie. And she also, Tony and her had that little heart-to-heart when Tony was eventually like, oh, I don't fancy you, or whatever, however he put it. And she was like, oh, you wouldn't stand a chance. You're not my type. So who is Joy's type? Now that is intriguing.
If she is, let's say maybe she's making this up, maybe she's not, or maybe she's, you know, making it slightly more flowery than it should be. I did like the fact that she's there for the Fate Committee interview with Linda, and Linda's obviously very skeptical of her, like a lot of people have been of Joy. And then she reels off all these things she did, and she fundraised. And then there was that point where it was like, she went, anyway, look, I've been yammering on. What qualities do I need again for the committee? And it's like, she knows what she's just done.
Nailed
It reminded me of that scene where Sigourney Weaver, they ask her if in Aliens, can she use the lifter? And she goes and picks up the box and moves it to the other side and then asks the army general, like, where do you want it? I think it was kind of like that. She was basically saying, is she playing people with this? Do you think?
Is. That was exactly the phrase that entered my brain as you were describing that. She is playing people, but not to...
not in a malicious way.
Exactly, not in a malicious way, yeah.
So maybe it's like this Machiavellian plot not to get on the parish council so she can bring down the crooked system from within, from the Fate Committee. She's going to bring them down with the whiff of her butterfly buns.
So it's to return to your verbal Kint analogy, she is Kaiser Soze, but rather than constantly trying to stay away from the crime, she's gradually. This is Kaiser Soze at the beginning of his career when he's inserting himself into matters.
Exactly.
So this is Joy gradually inveigling and wheedling her way into the center of things.
And then one day she'll be like, it'll be the silhouette of her walking away from a burning bridge farm.
But this is the thing, because I have little panic attacks when I think about them, because my favourite characters are all new ones at the moment, like Vince and Joy and Russ. And then Matthew is very much the person who kind of got me into Russ. If it wasn't for Matthew, I was kind of like against Russ, but I sort of had a sort of Damascene conversion.
Yeah.
And now I'm panicking. They're trying to write Russ out, and I'm just the thought that Joy could be anything but a long-term character. Or Vince, just the thought of losing Vince is terrible. I was cyber stalking the actor the other day, and I was kind of like,
don't worry, Peter.
Nigel him.
They're gems at the moment, all of them. It does make me wonder whether the Adam stacking. On the other hand, will he actually be leaving to go anywhere? Do you think?
Well, Matthew. Can you remember what Lee said at the end of the episode where he had been trying to gently sort of help Adam? He said something like, "Oh, both of you can't go somewhere." I can't remember. But basically, he said something that had a double meaning, and it was about one of the meanings was, basically Brian and Adam would have to leave, or you both can't leave, or something. And I was thinking, well, actually, Brian has effectively resigned. They're not gonna let him retake over the farm. Jenny, Debbie, and Kate won't have that. I don't think. I think obviously Alice is not particularly fussed at the moment. Who knows what Rory thinks? Adam still has a vote, whether Brian wants him to or not. Maybe it is going to be that Adam and Brian are both ousted from the farm, and Debbie comes back to become a manager in locum for a few months.
I don't remember what he said to him at the end. I just remember him being...
Oh, yeah, I did ask you a question, didn't I?
You did.
It went on for about 5 minutes.
It was the longest question in the world.
No, I haven't finished, Matthew. Come on. Yeah.
Paragraph 2.
At the end, I just remember him saying like, "Oh, I just slipped up," but I don't remember him giving that. I think there was that whole thing. The only thing I remember about the end of that episode was Lee went, "Adam, tell me to shut up," and I was just like, just waiting for him to go, "Shut up."
Yeah, for that part of my notes on Tuesday at the end, I put blah blah blah, and then in inverted commas, make things right and move on. So I didn't really make any notes about the detail of that. So sorry, Peter.
No. I mean, it's and do you know what? I should have made notes, but I just remember thinking, is this a clue? Because I do feel like they're a lot more hinty of late.
Yeah.
It does feel like it's a lot more structured, like we're supposed to sort of be following. That there are junctions and red herrings and things for us to buy into quite heavily, which I quite like.
Yeah, so do I. Where you go, oh, that's why that happened last week, or that was said.
I mean, this whole thing with Adam, the money, and the electrician, it was so clunkingly obvious that this was coming, wasn't it?
Yep.
It was going on for ages. And
Yeah.
but Lee, no judge of character. I mean, asking Adam, "You ever had a go on the drums?"
I liked when he said it's very good for aggression.
Yeah. And then, like 2 seconds later, Adam completely blows his lid.
Oh, what was that line that Adam said about the clamps? Look, give me 2 minutes. I'll get the damn clamps, all right.
Adam's music collection is Lighthouse Family Greatest Hits and then a backup copy of Lighthouse Family Greatest Hits. That's it. There's the 2 CDs side by side. One's still in its box, which Lee would approve of.
Yeah, he was very, very odd. Poor old Adam. And there was in terms of whether he has or hasn't worked really hard, it was a bit, Brian contradicted himself. Yes, I know. I'm saying that Brian contradicted himself, but in an earlier episode, he said, I've treated you like a dog's body and I haven't been pulling my weight, didn't he? Something like that. And then I've been treating you like the hired help or something. And then later on, Adam's like, I've worked my guts out this year, blah, 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 and comparing himself resentfully with how Brian treats the other kids. So, he probably has carried things for a bit, Adam, work-wise.
They were setting that up, weren't they? They were setting it up on Monday that Brian and Adam were kind of having this warming moment in the office where Adam's like, no, you don't worry. And Brian's like, no, I'll do it. And then he finds out, and then it's just, they just tip to the entire other end of the scale. And the whole thing with all of that in those first couple of episodes was the whole reason Brian was back in the office and discovered the $5,000 was missing was because that Alice had threw her toys at the pram.
Yeah.
And then they didn't go to Pat and Tony's for dinner in the end anyway, which means Joy would have never needed to babysit. And the toys would have never been broken out of the box. That was the real bloody Misha Schmidt up the ass. Like, it was just ridiculous.
Like a right little set of dominoes that was, wasn't it? Or a butterfly effect, like the butterfly buns.
Yes.
I mean, Brian didn't cover himself in glory, particularly in the kind of the final argument of the week. But Adam kind of chased him around the room. Brian was quite happy doing his little chores and pretending to be friends and just kind of trying to let the whole thing drop so that he could concentrate on his daughter and his other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Brian, but he very rarely does the right thing. Adam had been given an out. He didn't get the pat on the bum he wanted. And he was determined. He was determined to get the pat on the head from Brian, and he didn't get it, and so he threw a second temper tantrum. It was just too much for Brian. And then, of course, Brian being Brian, he had no ability to then, de-escalate or kind of walk away. Neither of them are big enough to do that. But it was just, it was Adam. Come on, man! It's just, what are you doing? And also, he's grown up around Brian. At which point has Brian ever taken a backward step in the moment? So even if he was right, which he wasn't, there was nothing to be gained by going toe to toe with Brian.
Yeah, none of it made sense whatsoever. At the point at which Brian was going, I'm looking at the accounts. I need to sort of rustle up some money for the rehab. Adam should have said, meant to tell you, I've borrowed $5,000. It'll be in there within the week.
Yeah, and also to say, yeah, it's really bad. I'm very, very sorry. Because you'd feel, because it's completely illogical. The very fact that he was lying and trying to dodge the issue and move Brian away from it, and sort of shows that he's embarrassed of it. Otherwise, he would have just said, "Oh, seeing as you're looking at the accounts, it's a good opportunity." It would have the first thing he would have said earlier than you even said, Keri. It would have been like, "Actually, this is a fantastic opportunity to have this discussion. I haven't been having it because of Alice and the stuff, but seeing as we're going through the accounts, you'll notice there's a chit in there where I've written Adam has borrowed the money, and then it's like cheeky rather than theft,
rather than a lie." Yeah.
Although to defend Adam, his point that he made to Lee that it was the name of the electrician does hold water a little bit.
Yeah, of course, but say it has happened. And why, okay, so it was $5,000 because it was more extensive work than we'd imagined or something. They described it. That was fascinating. why not mention it? Why not ask for money? Why not get the personal loan from the bank at that point to pay for it?
You know, I think part of the Moroccan peasant ovens don't come cheap, Keri.
No, they don't. You know, they're living above their station, really, aren't they?
Yeah, but, I mean, do you think he intended to pay the money back? Do you think he would have just let it go on and on?
Yeah, I think he probably did. You can't not pay $5,000 back, can you?
That's what I thought. I was just, I mean, and the fact that he just swanned down the bank and got a loan as well, I just thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But I did, you know, that whole thing tonight with Brian and Adam going at it in what appeared to be the field. You know, the only thing missing from that was like Keri in the background with like a kebab in one hand and a half-drunk bottle of white port in the other, going, "Hit him, Brian!
Yeah.
Hit him!" But it was like Brian was king of the like every time Adam said something, he's like, okay, and just walked down a little bit further and started clipping another bit of the fence. And there was one point, and
Brian was very restrained.
And I think it was actually an accidental thing that they left in or something. Like Adam coughed when he was getting angry.
Ooh.
And I was like, is this imminent heart attack?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
They're throwing
the
in. Yeah, he was breathing and then he stopped and he coughed and he carried on. I was like, interesting.
Well, either one of them could have combusted and had some sort of problem, couldn't they? I was worried for my Brian at this point.
What are they going to do with Adam though once he's not on the farm?
I think he's going to go rogue. He's going to live in the woods.
Like a Yeti or whatever.
Yes.
So Adam the Unabomber living in his hut in the woods.
I like that. I like that theory.
Plotting dark revenge against all the people who've let him down over the years.
A bit like that that army guy in Belgium that's just walked out of an army barracks with an entire arsenal of weapons and rocket launchers, and he's been missing for 3 weeks. Have you seen that?
No.
Yes, and they've checked his search history now, and he's like far right lunatic.
Where is he?
They don't know.
Oh.
As of yesterday, he is. Yeah, it's a little bit.
Where was that? Belgium?
Yeah, don't fly into Belgium anytime soon. God. Basically, he's got like ground-to-air missiles. This guy.
Oh.
Sorry, that raised the mood.
I
mean,
cheers, Matthew.
Sorry. I mean, the other thing I like that it was a little bit bizarre, and I feel like we have to give them a little bit of a mention because we had Brian and Adam going at it tonight. Phoebe and Rex in their camping.
Oh God.
It was very bizarre, wasn't it? The whole thing. I mean, I felt personally cheated that they just mentioned anecdotally that Jim and Robert had brought over a bird chart, and I was like, why didn't we get to hear that?
Yeah, that was very. I found it quite sort of stale. I was going to say not stale.
I think it was just
stilted.
I think it was just there to calm you down in between rounds of Brian and Adam.
That was worse than the Brian and Adam thing, really, on the irking front, I thought, where they were like listing things like, you know, the compost loo, the reception is a repurposed shepherd's hut.
The fire pits.
Yeah, the charcoal.
Which is basically where, like, I mean, I just thought, I like the way Rex was like, you know, we want, when our guests arrive, we want a message that says, relax, you're going to enjoy your holiday. And if you just look to the left, that's Phoebe's grandfather beating his stepson to death with a G-clamp. Yeah. That's them rolling in the fire pits.
That guy's the reason that you can't drink any of the water out of the tap. That guy tipped his brother-in-law off a roof.
Oh, and all of the complimentary wine. You see that girl over there? Well, that's his daughter, and she's helped herself to it.
Oh, yeah, there's a reason you can't leave him with a shotgun. That way.
But there was also that bit where they're running around trying to find out how they're going to get this, like, was it lights to the toilet or something, wasn't it? And there was like out of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, something that Rex said, and I imagine like two trench-coated men meeting in a drizzly Hyde Park. I hear Bert has a solar-powered gnome in the garden.
The geese are flying south over Moscow.
to be fair, they did resist the temptation to do something utterly bananas. They did go, oh, we know someone who has the skills to sort this out quickly and in a well expedited fashion. We'll call him, and there he is, and he's done it, and we say thank you.
Yeah, Roy got some old roadie, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, Mark.
We didn't have. We didn't have Eddie. We didn't have Eddie sort of, creating 100 little mini sort of, glow in the dark shepherd's huts and then
Yeah.
stringing them along like bunting or something.
But it was literally sort of 2 minutes ago that they were going, "Goodbye, Roy. Don't need you here. Bye, Roy."
Yeah.
And then later it's like, I know who we can call Roy, that person that you've just told to get out of him.
Yeah, he's only hanging around because he can't believe he doesn't trust his daughter to run a business, and then he comes back and there's that big kind of like Friends moment at the end of it, like a American sitcom. I'm just so proud of you,
not
doing
good.
something I can never do.
No, you two are harder
Not
than
good.
me. You two
No.
are way harder than me. I
Oh,
I
come
get
on.
super lachrymose about all this sort of stuff. Like, the things that get me. Do you remember that guy Bert DeVos, or whatever his name was, the South African swimmer, and there was the father was being interviewed by Claire Balding. He's like, "Oh, my boy, my beautiful
Oh, that was
boy."
great.
Yeah,
That made me
I'll
cry. Yeah.
yeah, we'll have to put that on the description of the pod. And then the other in any of the ones where it's the story of the story of the hard father who never gave anything but kind of like stern instruction on how to, and then it turns out he never missed a show. He was always at the back and he had a scrapbook with everything in.
Well,
All
what
that
is
stuff
your
gets
point
me.
here, Peter?
That
We're
Roy's pride in his daughter was lovely, and you two are pouring piss and shit and vinegar all over it.
No. That's fine. It's how it was all presented to us. That's what I'm talking about.
Just you at home, Keri, with your bottle of vodka. Mummy, look, I made this. Look at my Lego castle. Duh. And then a swig of Latvian vodka.
Oh, shut it.
Yeah.
That's a tired old trope, and I'll have none of it. And what we were talking about is the presentation of it. It was a clunky section, definitely.
Just before we move on, how much of my offensive stereotype did I get right? What do they have vodka in Latvia? Is "da" the correct word in Latvia?
No, it isn't.
No. Okay.
No. They
Is
do
any
have
of it
vodka
right?
in Latvia.
I have a very, very good friend from Riga, and she'll be hearing about all of this, Peter.
I mean, Phoebe, she's so peculiar when she was like, we could be getting sued for negligence. It's like, chill out, love. You could have got some torches from the garage. It would have been all right. There's 2 families who are arriving.
One of them was called what were they called? The abseils?
Yeah. All you had to say was, it was one night, wasn't it, that they had to cope with this terrible tragedy of not having the solar lighting. Here's some torches for the first night. Bit of a mix-up. We weren't here when they were delivered. They'll be here tomorrow.
She's asking, like, Rex of all people, what would happen if we got bad reviews? What would happen? Like, Rex is like public enemy number 1 when it comes to that. I was thinking David's in the background going, I'm going to write a fucking shitty review for this place.
Oh, that's a good point. That would be fair play. That would be quite a funny little joke from David. Just like, absolutely slam him and then take it down.
Yeah, I couldn't find my way to the toilet and I got covered in, what was it you said, Peter? Piss, shit and vinegar?
Yeah. The Warbis trifecta.
What's going on here?
Oh.
No, nothing. It is. I mean, I don't think it's controversial to say that Keri is made of sterner stuff than me. I am a more marshmallowy, squishy creature, and Keri, isn't. So it's not to say that Keri doesn't have warm blood in her veins and isn't capable of love and affection. It's just that when it comes to talking nonsense about the Archers, Keri is more difficult to, move. Do you agree, Keri? Is that unfair?
Yeah, definitely. I'm taking no umbrage, although it was just, I think what I didn't like was that you got the wrong end of the stick earlier. That's all.
You are, yeah. I mean, this has been my experience over the last year and a half of working with Keri. Is insult the crap out of her, fine. Make a tiny error of any kind and trigger the pedant side of her, and you're in a world of hurt.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well done, Peter.
Thank you.
Love you. Yeah, the camp fiasco bit was just silly, wasn't it?
I honestly think it was just there as if, like, when they go back to the pundits in between UFC. I just felt like it was like, and now we're going back. Is it the Octagon they fight in UFC?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So we now know that Roy and Phoebe quite like each other. That's it.
Well, I mean, it was a very nothing scene, wasn't it?
Were you going to ask who would win out of Brian and Adam in UFC?
No, the whole village.
Oh.
Big bundle. Everyone goes into the Octagon. Who comes out?
I reckon Lee makes the final, and then Jazza takes Lee down.
I think I have the definitive answer.
Mm.
Fallon.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
She's got steel.
Yeah.
I think Fallon once triggered would just go. And we're assuming that they don't have there'd be rounds to sort out family members. You don't have to fight you don't have to fight an immediate family member.
I reckon she'd mercilessly take out Harrison in the semis.
Tracy would be quite.
Yes, no, we should put this to Susie next week.
Oh yeah.
I think it's definitely going to be a woman. I think all the men, and this is not a comment on society in general.
Yeah, so the women are stronger in Ambridge, you reckon?
Name a man with any backbone. I know Brian is, but Brian's too lazy to fight to the death. He'd be like, "Oh, go on then," as long as he could have a good old, drink, good glass of quality whiskey before he died, he'd probably just.
When you say backbone, though, do you mean physical backbone or do you mean gumption? Because Jim has gumption, but not. I can't imagine him taking people down in a bundle.
No, he might read aloud from a book and kind of make them wither into a puddle. But
a young Jim could have completed any of the Mortal Kombat finishing moves without batting an eyelid, I think. But yeah, now he doesn't have the
whilst playing the piano at the same time.
Exactly.
Can we not do more Street Fighter 2 references? I'm totally out of my comfort zone with Mortal Kombat.
No, I know that's it. I completed it. I completed number 2 with Sub-Zero, but apart from that's the only one I know. But are there any other men who are in the running? I mean, I just don't feel Fallon can be beaten at the moment. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Ruth. Ruth's got a bit of steel to her.
Vince would do dirty shit. He'd do whatever he needed to do to win.
Jacob. He'd be like some sort of he'd be really sort of focused and just get the job done.
So sorry, /
He'd be capable of doing one of those like pinpoint where he just sticks a finger in your breastplate and kills you.
Yeah. Barely any movement like Spock.
And then he'd just turn around to the referee and go, "That's where the heart is."
No, I'm afraid it's Fallon with her knockoff Stratocaster that she got given when she was 13 by Jolene, just going, full Tonto.
I feel like I'm going to have to make some kind of Ambridge UFC generator program just to see who gets to the fight.
This is the only reason I want to win the lottery is so that I can spend my life doing stuff like that. Just
pay the cast of the Archers to actually fight in UFC.
Hello, is that Nick Park? Yeah, whatever you're doing, I've got enough money to make you do a claymation UFC fight of the entire of the Ambridge population. Well, it's the end of the show, and normally we would just have a few bits of social media chit-chat to do, some kind of weird segue into a bit of nonsense about our personal lives. But this week, of course, we have something concrete, something exciting, something of notice to blather on about. And it is the fact that Susie is going to be on the show.
Yes, we talked about it last week. And I'm already a listener to her podcast. I had a listen this morning. I absorbed a few of the points she made, and they did speak to me a bit. It's about coming of age or possibly feeling how much time you have left. So I've taken a lot of that on board, and I wouldn't mind bringing a few of those points she made up with her when she comes on.
Sounds interesting. Yeah. And we need some questions for Susie. There must be things that you would like to ask Tracy Horrobin, I would imagine. So send them our way.
Yeah, there's multiple options. You can email at hello@thecidershed.com, and of course follow us on Twitter, and then you can DM Keri and Matthew's on Facebook at
the Cider Shed Podcast. So I am the Cider Shed, the admin of the Cider Shed Podcast. You can either post it straight to the group, or you can DM me as the admin. Either way, it'll get to us.
And Keri, I don't think I gave you the chance to do the Twitter handle.
Oh, that's okay. At the Cider Shed Pod is the Twitter handle.
So we've got to go and get our energy levels all the way up for next week. Although, Keri, you've hung out virtually with Susie before. I think Susie has energy to spare, doesn't she?
Oh, God, yes, I have. And she does indeed. It's going to be a right laugh. She's wonderfully warm, hilarious, and game for anything. So, I do hope people do send in. It doesn't actually have to be questions, just some comments about her character. That would be good. I think she's such a well-loved character that there must be things that people would like to say and share with Susie.
Yep, slide into our DMs, folks.
Yeah.
We're here.
Yeah, to sort of build on Keri's point, we've never if there is success in this podcast, it hasn't been built on overthinking stuff. So
No.
no need to no need to work too hard. Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to Matthew and Keri. They've carried me through this. I've been carrying a stinking cold and a cough, and I really appreciate them doing all the hard work. So yes, onwards and upwards, and see you next week. Thank you.
Yeah, see you next week with Susie.
See ya. Bye.
Was that all right?
Yeah.